After my wife's funeral, my eldest daughter pressured me to throw away all of her mother's belongings immediately. Forget about mom and move on with your life, she kept saying, her voice strangely devoid of the devastating emotion that was consuming me. But while sorting through my wife's things, I found a note tucked deep inside a hidden pocket of her favorite bag. If you're reading this, urgently check my suitcase. You'll understand everything. I opened it and my world completely collapsed. In just a few more days, I would destroy everything with my own hands. Wait before I tell you what happened at that funeral. Comment below where you're watching from. I'm sharing this painful story because someone, somewhere, might be facing the same nightmare I did. Let me know you're listening to this channel. The November snow fell soft and silent over the vast expanse of the Crown Hill Cemetery. Each flake felt like a cold whisper against the dark suits and black dresses gathered around the freshly dug grave. I stood at the edge of the open earth, my hand resting on Lily's small, trembling shoulder. As the pastor's voice droned through prayers I couldn't hear, my mind was somewhere else, trapped in the agonizing moment 3 days ago when they'd told me Sarah's car had gone off Interstate 7 near Morrison. Jessica stood beside me, face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking with sobs. My 19-year-old daughter had been inconsolable since the news broke. Now, as they lowered Sarah's casket into the frozen ground, her grief seemed to pour out raw and desperate, echoing the hollowness in my own heart. "Mommy's sleeping," Lily said suddenly, her small voice cutting through the solemn ceremony like a knife. "When will she wake up?" I knelt down, pulling my youngest daughter close, trying to shield her from the biting wind. "Mommy's not sleeping, sweetheart. She's gone to heaven." The scent of incense hung heavy in the cold air, mixing with fresh earth and the distant smell of wood smoke from a nearby house. Karen Moore, Sarah's best friend since college, stepped forward and placed a white lily on the casket. Her eyes were red, swollen from days of crying. She'd been the one helping me make arrangements when I couldn't function, when getting out of bed felt like climbing a mountain. Our neighbor, Mrs. Rutherford, touched my arm gently as people began to disperse. "I'm so sorry, David. If you need anything at all, I'm just downstairs." I nodded, unable to speak, my throat tight with unshed tears. The drive back to our home in Cherry Creek was silent, except for Lily's occasional sniffles. I kept glancing in the rearview mirror at Jessica, who sat perfectly still, staring out the window at the passing gray landscape. Her tears had stopped completely. Her face was blank, almost calm. Maybe she'd cried herself empty, I thought. But when we pulled into the driveway, something shifted. Jessica unbuckled her seatbelt before I'd even turned off the engine. She was out of the car, moving toward the house with quick, purposeful steps that seemed out of place. "Jessica," I called after her, lifting Lily from her seat. She didn't answer. Inside, the house felt wrong. Too quiet, too empty. It felt like the warmth had vanished along with Sarah. I took Lily to the kitchen, tried to get her to drink some water, but I could hear footsteps upstairs, moving back and forth, quick and urgent. "Stay here, maybe," I told Lily, setting her up with her coloring books. "Daddy will be right back." I climbed the stairs slowly, my legs feeling heavy as lead. The sounds were coming from our bedroom. The door was half open. I pushed it wider and froze in the doorway. Jessica was on her knees beside Sarah's old leather suitcase, the one that had been in her car during the accident. The police had returned it just 2 days ago. I hadn't had the strength to look at it, let alone open it, but Jessica had. She was frantically pulling things out, clothes, papers, personal items, and shoving them into a large black garbage bag. Her movements were jagged, almost mechanical. Her face was dry, focused, intense. There was no trace of the grief that had seemingly consumed her an hour ago at the graveside. "Jessica," I said quietly, confusion clouding my mind. "What are you doing?" She jumped, spinning around. For a fraction of a second, I saw something flash across her face. Maybe panic? Fear? Then it vanished, replaced instantly by a sad, strange smile. "Oh, Dad." She stood quickly, brushing off her knees. "I'm just trying to help you move on, get rid of some of Mom's things. It'll only make it harder if you keep everything around." I stared at her in disbelief. "We just buried Sarah less than 3 hours ago." "I know," her voice cracked slightly, but it felt rehearsed. I know, okay, but I can't. I can't keep seeing her things everywhere. It hurts too much. That made sense logically. Grief affected people differently. Maybe this was Jessica's way of coping, purging the reminders to stop the pain. But something in her eyes told me different. It was too precise, too urgent. Let me handle this. I gently pushed Jessica aside and knelt before the suitcase myself. Sarah's clothes lay neatly folded inside. Still beneath the fabric, I felt something stiff, a manila envelope. Insurance documents spilled out. Life insurance. $1.2 million. I stared at the number, my mind struggling to process it. Why was this here? A business card fell out next. Ray Harrison and Associates. Private investigations. A private investigator? I dug deeper, my heart pounding. Photographs scattered across the carpet. Jessica, my daughter, with a silver-haired man, maybe in his 50s. They were at upscale restaurants and hotels. His hand was on her waist, too familiar, too intimate. Bank statements followed. Jessica's account showed deposits I'd never seen. $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, week after week. Then a sealed envelope in Sarah's handwriting. For David, urgent. Inside was a USB drive and a hastily written note. David, if you're reading this, I'm gone. Everything you need is on this drive. Trust no one. Not even... The final words were smeared, illegible, as if a tear had fallen on the ink. My laptop sat nearby on the nightstand. I plugged in the drive with shaking hands. 3 folders appeared on the screen. Financial records, locked. Surveillance photos, audio evidence. A README file said, "Start with audio 01. Password is Lily's birthday. I'm so sorry, David." I clicked the first audio file. Sarah's voice filled the room and my heart broke all over again. It sounded so alive. November 1st, 8 p.m. I followed Jessica today. She didn't go to her study group. She went to the Four Seasons Hotel. A man met her, 50s, gray hair, expensive suit. They kissed, not like friends, like lovers. Her voice cracked slightly on the recording. I need more proof. I need to know who he is, what he wants with our daughter. Tomorrow The recording cut off abruptly. I sat frozen, Sarah's voice still echoing in the silence of the room. My wife had been investigating our own daughter. Dad. I looked up. Jessica stood in the doorway, staring at the USB drive in my hand. Her face had gone completely white, draining of all color. She saw the photos on the floor, the bank statements, the glowing laptop screen. Dad, she whispered, her voice trembling. What is that? I stood frozen, staring at the USB drive in my hand, memories flooding back. 6 weeks ago, Sarah had shown me a designer bag she'd found in Jessica's room. Red leather, gold hardware, $3,000. Where would she get this kind of money? Sarah had asked, her voice tight with worry. I'd shrugged it off, trying to keep the peace. Probably a knockoff, you know how kids are. But Sarah had worried. She'd always been more perceptive than me. 3 weeks later, Sarah had tried again. Jessica is different lately, Sarah had said while we washed dishes together. She's secretive, always on her phone. She won't tell me where she goes anymore. She's 19, honey. College students need their space. This is different. Sarah had gripped the dish towel until her knuckles were white. A mother knows when something's wrong. 2 weeks before the accident, I'd found Sarah crying at the dining table. Lily sat beside her, confused and scared. Jessica told Lily she didn't have time for childish nonsense, Sarah had said through tears. She was so cold, David. Lily just wanted her sister to read her a bedtime story. I confronted Jessica that night. She'd apologized sweetly, blamed exam stress. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. 5 days before the accident, Sarah had dropped the bombshell. I hired a private investigator. You what? Her hands had been shaking. I know it sounds paranoid, but I had to know the truth. David, Jessica is seeing someone, an older man, much older. Someone's been giving her thousands of dollars. I'd been furious. That's insane. Our daughter deserves privacy. I have photos, bank records, Sarah's voice had croaked. Tomorrow I'll show you everything. Fine, I'd snapped. Back home, I went straight to my office and spread everything across the desk. Photographs, bank statements, the USB drive. I studied the photos carefully. The silver-haired man appeared in every one, at restaurants, hotels, his hand always on Jessica's waist, too familiar, too possessive. One photo showed them beside a black Mercedes. I zoomed in on the license plate. Another showed them outside an office building with a brass plaque, Thorne Consulting Group. I typed the name into Google. His website appeared. Professional headshot, expensive suit, Marcus Thorne. Senior investment consultant, but no team photos, no office address, just a phone number. His LinkedIn profile was equally thin. 52 years old, only 30 connections for someone claiming 15 years in finance. That was suspicious. I searched the Better Business Bureau. 2 complaints against Thorne Consulting Group. Both mentioned inappropriate relationships, both mysteriously withdrawn. Then I found a Reddit post from 8 months ago. Warning about Marcus Thorne in Boulder. This guy is a predator. Targeted my friend's daughter with expensive gifts, then vanished. Stay away. My stomach turned. I opened the investigator's full report from the USB drive. Subject: Marcus Allen Thorne, DOB August 14th, 1971. Marital status: married to Lydia Thorne. 2 children. Known pattern: targets young women via social media, presents as wealthy investor, provides gifts and cash. Relationships last 3 months before disappearing. Criminal record: no formal charges, multiple complaints settled privately. Risk assessment: high, demonstrates manipulation, may become dangerous if confronted. Report date: November 8th, 7 days before Sarah died. At the bottom, a handwritten note. Mrs. Vance strongly advise involving law enforcement. This man is more dangerous than he appears. Ray Harrison. I grabbed Harrison's card and dialed. He answered immediately. Harrison, this is David Vance, Sarah's husband. I need to talk about my wife's accident. A pause. Mr. Vance, I am deeply sorry. Your wife was trying to protect your daughter. I found everything she collected. My voice broke. She was terrified. She had reason to be. Harrison's tone was grave. Thorne is a professional. He knows how to avoid prosecution. Your daughter's in deep. I forced the question out. The accident. Do you think... Harrison cut me off. I don't believe in coincidences. Your wife was careful. The day before she died, she told me she was ready to confront Jessica and go to the police. My chest tightened. You think Thorne knew? I filed a report with Denver police the day after the crash. But Mr. Vance, listen carefully. If Thorne discovers you're investigating, you could be next. The line went dead. I sat frozen, Harrison's warning echoing. You could be next. Suddenly, the front door opened downstairs. Footsteps in the hallway. Dad? Jessica's voice called up. You home? She wasn't supposed to be back until tonight. I looked at my desk. Photographs everywhere. Jessica and Thorne kissing, the investigator's report, bank statements showing thousands of dollars. Everything exposed. Dad? Her footsteps started up the stairs. I had maybe 10 seconds. The next afternoon, I sat in the living room waiting. Lily was still at Karen's house. I told her she could stay another night. On the coffee table in front of me lay a single photograph. Jessica and Marcus Thorne outside the Four Seasons Hotel, his hand on her waist, her looking up to him like he was everything. I'd printed it that morning. The front door opened at 4:30. Jessica walked in wearing a new coat I'd never seen before. Cashmere, probably expensive, designer jeans, leather boots that looked like they cost more than my monthly car payment. She froze when she saw me sitting there. Sit down, I said quietly. We need to talk. Dad, I have homework. Sit down. Something in my voice made her obey. She perched on the edge of the armchair across from me, her purse clutched in her lap. I slid the photograph across the coffee table. Who is this man? The color drained from her face. Where did you get that? I loved her. Jessica was crying now, full sobs. Maybe I made some mistakes, but I would never hurt Mom, never. She looked so much like the little girl who used to climb into my lap when she had nightmares, the daughter who'd made me birthday cards every year. For a moment, doubt crept in. Jessica, if you don't believe me, fine. She wiped her eyes roughly, but don't interrogate me like I'm a criminal in my own home. She grabbed her purse and ran upstairs. Her bedroom door slammed so hard the walls shook. I sat alone in the silence. Above me, I could hear Jessica crying, deep, wrenching sobs that made my chest ache. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe Sarah had been wrong. Maybe this was all just a terrible misunderstanding and I was destroying what was left of my family. Then the crying stopped. I heard Jessica's voice muffled through the floor. She was on the phone. I stood quietly and moved to the bottom of the stairs. Her door was closed, but her voice carried through the old house. If you listen carefully, I know Marcus. He found the photos. No, I didn't tell him anything. What do you mean, handle it? A long pause. I don't know if he has the report. He mentioned an investigator. Yes, Harrison. Another pause. Her voice dropped even lower. I climbed 3 steps, straining to hear. The suitcase. He found Mom's suitcase, the USB drive, everything. My blood went cold. Marcus, I'm scared. What if he goes to the police? Okay. Tonight? But Lily's not even home. Are you sure that's... She stopped abruptly. I heard footsteps crossing her room fast. Her door flew open. Jessica stood at the top of the stairs, phone still in her hand, staring down at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not grief, not anger, fear. Dad? She whispered. How long have you been standing there? Her voice wasn't the voice of my 19-year-old daughter. It was cold, sharp, and laced with a terrifying maturity that didn't belong to the girl I had raised. I just walked out of the office, I lied, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I forced a look of confusion onto my face, masking the terror that was freezing my blood. I was coming to ask if you wanted dinner. Who are you talking to? Jessica stared at me for a long, agonizing moment. Her eyes searched mine, looking for a crack in my composure. Finally, her shoulders dropped and the mask slipped back into place. Just a friend from school. She's helping me through everything. I'm sorry I yelled earlier, Dad. I'm so stressed. I know, honey, I know. I'm going to order pizza. Stay home tonight, okay? We need to be together. Okay, she called out. I'll be down in a bit. But as soon as I reached the kitchen, I didn't call for pizza. I grabbed my keys and wallet, my hands shaking so badly I almost dropped them. I needed to get out. I needed to get to the police before tonight became a reality. That evening, I sat alone in the dark of my car, parked 3 blocks away, staring at my phone. Finally, I dialed the number from Sarah's accident report. Detective Alan Miller answered on the second ring. Miller, this is David Vance, Sarah Vance's husband. I need to talk about my wife's accident. A pause. The line crackled with static. Mr. Vance, I was hoping you'd call. Can you come to the station tonight? We have updates. At 8 p.m., Detective Miller met me at the Denver Police Department. He was a man in his late 50s with graying hair and tired, cynical eyes that had seen too much darkness. He led me to a sterile conference room and spread photographs across the metal table. Sarah's car at the bottom of the embankment off Interstate 70, twisted metal, shattered glass, the remnants of our life together destroyed in an instant. I couldn't breathe. Mr. Vance, we completed the forensic analysis of your wife's vehicle this afternoon. I took the stairs 2 at a time. Her bedroom door stood open. Clothes were scattered everywhere, like she'd packed in a panic. Drawers hung open, her laptop was gone, her phone charger was missing. A note sat on her desk, scrawled in hasty handwriting. Dad, need space. Staying with a friend, don't worry. Don't worry. I scoffed bitterly. I called her phone, straight to voicemail. She had turned it off. I stood in her empty room, the scent of her perfume lingering in the air, her voice from last night echoing in my head. What do you mean, handle it? Tonight. My daughter was gone, and I had no idea where. The next few days blurred together in a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Day 4. Jessica came home late that night. I heard her car pull in around midnight. She went straight to her room without saying a word. Miller studied the image on my screen.
We'll need the physical evidence, but this fits. Someone crushed those pills and put them in her food or drink that morning. The room felt like it was closing in on me. Who was in the house the morning your wife died? Miller asked quietly. My mouth went dry. Jessica. She told me she had a late class that day. She was home that morning. The words felt like poison coming out of my mouth. Mr. Vance, we're building a case against both your daughter and Marcus Thorne, but right now everything we have is circumstantial. The cut brake line, the drugs, the phone call your daughter made. We need something concrete to tie them together. What do you need? A confession. Miller opened a drawer and pulled out a small black device. I want you to wear a wire. Talk to your daughter. Get her to admit what she did. I stared at the recording device. It was so small, barely bigger than a quarter. You want me to trick my own daughter into confessing to murder? I want you to get justice for your wife. Miller's voice was firm, but not unkind. Jessica knows something. Whether she did this herself or she helped Thorne, she knows. And right now, she thinks she's gotten away with it. I thought of Sarah's voice on those audio files, her fear, her determination to protect what was left of our family. I thought of Lily saying, "Mommy won't be bothering us anymore." What do I have to do? I whispered. First, we need to bring in everyone involved for questioning. And, Mr. Vance, we found the mechanic. Miller pulled out another file. His name is Ian Mercer. We picked him up an hour ago on an unrelated drug charge. He's already talking to cut a deal. On the afternoon of day 11, the doorbell rang. Karen Moore stood on my porch holding a small cardboard box. David, I need to give you something. We sat in the living room. She placed the box on the coffee table between us. Sarah gave this to me 3 weeks ago. Karen's voice shook. She made me promise. She said, if anything happens to me, give this to David after the funeral. My heart stopped. Inside the box were 3 sealed envelopes numbered 1 through 3, Sarah's wedding ring, and a family photograph from Lily's 3rd birthday. I opened envelope 1. October 20th. David, if you're reading this, my worst fears came true. Jessica has changed. Our daughter isn't the girl we raised anymore. Something dark has taken hold of her. She looks at me with cold calculation like I'm an obstacle instead of her mother. I love her. God help me, I love her with everything I have. But David, I'm afraid of her. Protect Lily. Whatever happens, protect our baby girl. Love always, Sarah. I couldn't breathe. Karen squeezed my shoulder as I opened envelope 2. November 3rd. David, Harrison found 2 other young women involved with Marcus Thorne. Both tried to leave him. One died in a house fire last year in Boulder, ruled accidental. Another drowned in her bathtub 6 months ago in Fort Collins, also ruled accidental. These weren't accidents. Thorne eliminates anyone who threatens him. And now our daughter is with him. I'm meeting Harrison tomorrow to finalize everything, then going to the police. I have to stop this before someone else dies. I love you. I love our girls. Sarah. 2 other women dead. My hands shook as I picked up envelope 3. The handwriting looked rushed, desperate, the ink smeared in places. November 10th, 7:45 a.m. David, something's wrong. I'm writing this quickly before I leave. Jessica was here this morning. She made me coffee. Made me coffee. She's never done that once in her entire life. She was so sweet, so attentive, it felt staged. The coffee tasted bitter. I poured most of it out into the plant when she wasn't looking, but I drank some to avoid suspicion. I feel strange, foggy. My hands are shaking. I'm driving to meet Harrison one last time, then straight to the police. Detective Miller expects me at 2 p.m. If something happens to me today, look at Jessica. Look at what she gave me this morning. I should have acted sooner. I love you. Protect Lily. Please be careful. If they hurt me, you could be next. Forever yours, Sarah. The letter fell from my hands. She knew.
That morning, she knew the coffee was poisoned. She poured it out but drank some anyway to avoid raising Jessica's suspicions, and she still got in the car because she was trying to save us. She drove to her death to protect our family. David, Karen's voice cracked. Sarah asked me to take care of Lily if anything happened to you. I promised I would. So please, whatever you're about to do, be careful. Did she tell you she suspected Jessica? Not directly, but I knew. Karen wiped her eyes. Sarah was terrified of her own daughter those last weeks. My phone buzzed. It was Miller. Mr. Vance, Ian Mercer just gave us a statement. He admitted a man matching Thorne's description paid him $5,000 cash to cut the brake line. He identified Thorne from a photo lineup, but he also said something else. What? He said the man wasn't alone. A young woman was in the car with him when the payment was made. She stayed in the passenger seat wearing sunglasses, but Mercer described her car, a white Honda Civic. Jessica's car. Day 12 and 13, the hardest 48 hours of my life. I hired a private security guard to watch the house while I was at work, though I barely worked. I told Jessica I had meetings. Then I texted her. I'm sorry for how I acted. Can we talk? I miss you, she replied an hour later. Okay, maybe this weekend. Good, she thought I was backing down. Day 12, 3 p.m., I parked across the street from Jessica's apartment building near the campus and waited. At 4:30, she emerged, but it wasn't her clothes that shocked me this time. It was the car. A brand new silver Audi pulled up to the curb. Jessica slid into the passenger seat like she owned it, abandoning her beat-up Honda. This was a $60,000 vehicle. I followed at a distance, my heart pounding against my ribs. The Audi headed downtown and pulled into the Four Seasons Hotel valet parking. Jessica stepped out. A man was waiting for her in the lobby. Marcus Thorne. Even from across the street, I could see him clearly. Silver hair, expensive suit, confident posture. His hand went immediately to the small of Jessica's back, possessive, controlling. They disappeared into the hotel restaurant. I parked illegally and ran inside. I found a spot near the window, partially hidden behind a decorative column, and took out my phone. I started recording video. Thorne ordered wine. They talked in low voices. He touched her constantly, her hand, her shoulder, like she was his property. I moved closer, straining to hear fragments of conversation over the clatter of silverware. Your father found the files. Thorne's voice was cold, calculated. I told you I handled it. Jessica sounded defensive, her voice pitching up. You didn't handle anything. Thorne leaned forward, his face twisting into a sneer. He has everything your mother collected, the photos, the bank records, Harrison's report. Jessica's face went pale. What do we do? We? Thorne laughed softly. It was a cruel, scratching sound. There is no we, sweetheart. You need to understand that. He pulled a thick envelope from his jacket and slid it across the table. This is the last payment, $50,000. After this, we're done. Jessica stared at the envelope. Even from where I stood, I could see it was stuffed with cash. But you said... I said a lot of things. Thorne's smile didn't reach his eyes. Life isn't fair, baby. Your mother learned that lesson the hard way. My vision went red. I wanted to kill him right there. Jessica's voice dropped to a whisper. Are they going to arrest us? Not if you keep your mouth shut. Thorne leaned back, sipping his wine. I'll handle your father just like I handled your mother. He kissed her forehead, a gesture that might have looked tender to anyone else, but I saw it for what it was. Control, manipulation, the kiss of death. Go home, stay quiet, let me take care of this. Jessica nodded like a child following orders. I left before they did and sat in my car, shaking uncontrollably. I'll handle your father just like I handled your mother. I called Miller immediately. I just watched my daughter meet with Marcus Thorne at the Four Seasons. He gave her $50,000 in cash and told her he'd handle me the way he handled Sarah. Did you record it? Video and audio. Not great quality, but it's something. Send it to me now. Mr. Vance, we have enough to arrest Thorne, but we need to nail Jessica too if she was involved. We need that confession. Thorne threatened you directly. He's dangerous. I know. My voice was steady now, calm with a deadly resolve. I'm ready. Day 13, evening. I texted Jessica. I need to see you tomorrow night at the house, 7 p.m. This is important. Fine, she replied after an hour. 7 p.m. I stared at the message. My daughter, the girl I'd raised, taught to ride a bike, walked to her first day of kindergarten. She'd helped kill her own mother. And tomorrow night, I was going to make her confess. The afternoon of day 14, I sat in a small, windowless technical room at the Denver Police Department. A technician with cold hands attached a tiny microphone to my chest, hiding it beneath my button-down shirt. The wire was so thin I could barely feel it, but its weight sat heavy on my soul. Test, I said quietly. In the monitoring room next door, Detective Miller gave a thumbs up through the one-way glass. He walked back in and sat across from me, his face grim. Mr. Vance, listen carefully. Don't rush this. Let her talk. Give her space to explain herself. Present the evidence slowly, piece by piece. If you come at her too hard, she'll shut down. I nodded, my throat tight. I understand. Your code phrase, if things get dangerous, is Sarah would understand. Say those exact words and we'll be inside in 90 seconds. We'll have units parked 2 blocks away, completely silent. What if Thorne shows up? Then we move immediately, but based on the conversation you recorded at the hotel, I don't think he will. He's keeping his distance, letting Jessica take the risk. That's what manipulators do. Miller's expression hardened. What exactly do you need from her? A confession, I said, reciting the plan. We need her to admit she knew about the brake tampering, that she drugged Sarah, and most importantly, that Thorne ordered it. Miller leaned forward. Mr. Vance, I know this is your daughter. I know every instinct you have as a father is screaming at you to protect her, but she helped murder your wife. The words hit like a physical punch to the gut. Justice for Sarah is what matters now, Miller said quietly. Not your feelings, not Jessica's feelings. Sarah deserves justice. I looked down at my hands. They were shaking. What if she doesn't confess? Then we use what we have. Ian Mercer's testimony, the toxicology report, the letters Sarah left, your recordings of Thorne. He paused. But a confession would seal it. It would make it impossible for Thorne to walk away. I nodded slowly. One more thing. Miller handed me a folder. These are photos of the other 2 women Thorne was involved with, both dead. Show them to Jessica if you need to. Remind her what he's capable of. I opened the folder. 2 young faces, both around Jessica's age, both smiling in their photos, both dead now. He'll do the same to her eventually, I whispered. Yes, he will. Miller stood up. You're doing the right thing, David. This is the only way to stop him. At 6:45 p.m., I pulled into my driveway. The house was dark, except for the porch light I'd left on. Inside, I'd set up the living room carefully. 2 chairs facing each other, water glasses on the coffee table. Everything calm, controlled. I sat down and waited. The microphone pressed against my chest felt like a branding iron. 6:50 p.m. 6:55 p.m. Headlights swept across the front windows. Jessica's car pulled into the driveway. I stood up, my heart hammering so hard I thought the microphone might pick it up. The front door opened. Jessica stepped inside, her expression guarded, her shoulders tight. Hi, Dad. Hi, sweetheart. My voice didn't shake. Thanks for coming. Please sit down. 7 p.m. Jessica sat across from me in the living room, her arms crossed defensively over her chest. She kept glancing at the door. So what's this about? Her tone was cold, impatient. I took a slow breath. Stay calm. Let her talk. I want to understand what's happening with you and Marcus Thorne. She stiffened visibly. There's nothing to understand. Jessica, I know who he is. I know he's 52, married with 2 children. I know he has a pattern of targeting young women. You don't know anything about him. Her eyes flashed with anger. He cares about me. Does he? I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo I'd taken at the Four Seasons yesterday, Thorne's hand possessive on her back. This looks like control, not care. She looked away, refusing to meet my eyes. You followed me. Your mother did too, before she died. I slid Harrison's report across the coffee table. She hired a private investigator. She found out everything. Jessica's face went pale as she flipped through the pages. Mom was spying on me? That's insane. She was trying to protect you. I leaned forward. Jessica, Thorne has done this before. Other young women, they tried to leave him. I slid the photos of the 2 dead girls across the table. Look at them. She glanced down, then squeezed her eyes shut. Stop. I can't stop, not anymore. I pulled out the bank statements. $50,000. He gave it to you 2 days ago at the Four Seasons. I was there. I heard what he said. Her hands trembled in her lap. This is the last payment, I quoted. Life isn't fair. Your mother learned that the hard way. Jessica's breathing quickened. She looked like a trapped animal. The police found the mechanic who cut your mother's brake line, I said, watching her face carefully. His name is Ian Mercer. He identified the man who paid him $5,000 cash, a man with silver hair, 50s, expensive suit, Marcus Thorne. I don't know anything about that. Her voice was breaking now. Yes, you do. I pulled out the toxicology report. My hand shook as I placed it on the table between us. Your mother was drugged the morning she died. Zolpidem, sleeping pills, a high dose. Jessica stared at the document, her eyes wide with horror. The medical examiner found enough in her system to severely impair her driving. Combined with the brake failure, she never had a chance. Dad, Your mother left letters, Jessica. 3 of them are with Karen Moore. I pulled out the final letter, the one dated November 10th, Sarah's handwriting. I read it aloud, my voice breaking. Jessica made me coffee. She's never done that once in her entire life. The coffee tasted bitter. I poured most of it out, but I drank some. I feel strange, foggy. Jessica's face crumpled. Your mother knew, Jessica. She knew that morning that something was wrong. She knew you'd put something in her coffee. Tears streamed down my face. And she got in the car anyway because she was trying to save this family. She died trying to save you. Stop! Jessica was crying now, her whole body shaking violently. I can't stop because your mother is dead. My voice rose despite myself. She's dead, and I need to know what happened. I need to know what happened to the little girl I raised, the daughter who used to climb into my lap and ask me to read her stories. Where is she? Jessica looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. Her face was twisted in a mask of pain and bitterness. That little girl is dead. Her voice was barely a whisper. She died a long time ago. Silence filled the room. When? I asked softly. She wiped her face with shaking hands. When I realized how much money could buy, how much power it gave you, how people looked at you differently when you wore the right clothes, drove the right car. Thorne taught you that? Marcus showed me the truth. Her voice was bitter. That people like us, middle-class nobodies, were invisible, but with money, you become someone. So you traded your soul for designer handbags? I traded my soul for freedom. She looked at me with empty, desperate eyes, and Mom was going to take it all away. Jessica buried her face in her hands, sobbing. I met Marcus a year ago online. He seemed so sophisticated. He took me to expensive restaurants, bought me designer clothes, made me feel special. He made me feel seen. He groomed you, I said quietly. Maybe, but I wanted it. She looked up, mascara streaking her face. For the first time, I felt like I mattered, like I was more than just a boring daughter in a boring house. The words cut deep, but I stayed silent. When Mom found out, she went crazy. She said she'd go to the police, freeze my trust fund, cut me off completely. Jessica's voice shook. I told Marcus I was scared, angry. I didn't know what to do. What did he say? He said we had to handle it permanently. that accidents happen every day. She swallowed hard. He gave me the sleeping pills, told me to crush them into Mom's coffee, said she'd just get drowsy and stay home. But you knew about the brakes. Her face crumpled. Not at first. He told me after, said if she did drive, the brakes would fail. It would look like an accident. So you did it? My voice was hollow. I didn't want to, but he said I'd leave me, that I'd lose everything, that I'd go to jail. She was crying harder now. I was so stupid. Jessica, tell me what happened that morning. Her hands trembled. I came home early, made coffee. Mom was so surprised. She kept saying how sweet I was. My chest tightened, squeezing my heart. I crushed the pills, put them in her cup. She drank it. Jessica's voice broke. She looked at me and said, I love you so much, sweetheart. You'll always be my baby girl. And you hugged her? Yes, she could barely speak. I hugged her, and I knew the brakes were cut. I knew she was drugged, and I let her walk out and get in her car. You watched her drive to her death. I thought she'd just crash a little, get scared, and come home, Jessica screamed. I didn't think she'd die. You poisoned your own mother, hugged her, told her you loved her, then let her drive knowing exactly what would happen. I'm sorry, she collapsed forward. I'm so sorry, Dad. Sorry doesn't bring her back. I know. Her eyes were wild. I see her face every second. I hear her voice. I love you so much, sweetheart. Those were her last words to me. Silence filled the room. The confession hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Marcus promised we'd be together, that the insurance money would set us free. Her laugh was broken, hysterical. But he's leaving me, isn't he? That $50,000 was payoff money. Yes. So I killed my mother for nothing. Before I could respond, I heard it, a sound from the back of the house, the kitchen door opening. Jessica's head snapped up, eyes wide with terror. Footsteps in the hallway, slow, deliberate. Thorne stepped into the living room. In his right hand was a gun, a black semi-automatic pointed at the floor. Well, he said calmly, his voice smooth as silk. Isn't this touching? Jessica scrambled backward in her chair. Marcus, what are you? Shut up. He stepped further into the room. You really couldn't keep your mouth shut, could you, Jessica? His eyes were cold, calculating. Marcus, Jessica's voice trembled. Shut up. He stepped further into the room. You just confessed to murder. Do you understand how stupid that was? I slowly stood up, keeping my hands visible. Thorne, this is over. He laughed. Is it? I don't think so. I'm creating a narrative, David. Devastated father shoots murderous daughter, then turns the gun on himself. It's tragic. The news will eat it up. You won't get away with it, I said. I've done this before. He looked at Jessica with pure disgust. Oh, she didn't tell you about Jake, did she? Jessica let out a strangled sob. No, Marcus, please. Her ex-boyfriend, Thorne continued, keeping his eyes on me, drowned last year in a pool. Everyone thought he hit his head. He smiled cruelly. She held his head underwater while I watched. It was her initiation. Horror crashed over me. My daughter had killed before. He was going to tell, Jessica screamed. I had to. See? Thorne raised the gun, pointing it directly at my chest. She's a natural. I looked at the gun barrel. I looked at my daughter, who was sobbing on the floor. Sarah would understand, I said clearly. Thorne's eyes narrowed. What a weird thing to say before you... I dove sideways. The gun fired. Boom! The bullet shattered the lamp behind where I had been standing. I crashed into Thorne's legs. We went down hard. I wrestled for the weapon, his elbow smashing into my face. Boom! Another shot. The ceiling exploded in dust. Police! Drop it! The front door burst open. Detective Miller and 3 officers stormed in, weapons drawn. Get down! Get down! Thorne broke free from my grip and scrambled up. He ran toward the stairs. Then I saw her. Lily. My 6-year-old daughter was standing at the top of the stairs in her pink pajamas, rubbing her eyes. Daddy? No! I screamed. Thorn grabbed her. He yanked my daughter against his chest, the gun pressed against her small head. Back off! Back off or I'll blow her brains out! Lily screamed. Drop the weapon, Miller yelled, aiming his service pistol. I said back off! Thorn's eyes were wild. Miller didn't hesitate. He shifted his aim slightly. Pop! Not a bullet, a taser probe. It hit Thorn in the neck. He convulsed, his muscles locking up instantly. He dropped the gun. He dropped Lily. I lunged up the stairs and caught Lily before she fell. I've got you, baby. I've got you. Officers swarmed Thorn, slamming him face first into the hardwood floor. Handcuffs clicked. Marcus Thorn, you are under arrest. Jessica bolted for the back door. Dad, no, please! 2 officers caught her in 3 steps. She fought them, kicking and screaming. Help me, Daddy, please, don't let them take me. I held Lily tighter, burying her face in my shoulder. I turned my back on Jessica and walked down the stairs, away from her screams. Daddy, why is Jessica crying? Lily sobbed into my shirt. Don't look, sweetheart. Close your eyes. Behind me, Jessica's screams grew desperate. Dad, I'm sorry. Dad, please. I kept walking. Outside, the night air was cold. 2 patrol cars waited, lights flashing blue and red against the snow. Thorn was shoved into the first car, still cursing. Jessica was dragged into the second, sobbing uncontrollably. Detective Miller approached me. Mr. Vance, we got everything. Every word. Jessica's confession to drugging your wife, Jake's murder, Thorn's threats, all recorded. Is it over? I asked, my voice numb. It's over. He put a hand on my shoulder. Sarah would be proud. I watched both cars drive away into the darkness. My daughter was gone. My wife was gone. But justice was done.